The name Finding Flowers carries a deeply personal and symbolic meaning. It originates from my last name, Flowers, but its significance goes far beyond that. It represents my journey of growth, perseverance, and my self-discovery through adversity. Now, flowers just don't bloom in perfect conditions. They push through the dirt, withstand storms, and reach for the light despite the obstacles in their way. And my life has mirrored that same process, navigating hardship, overcoming struggles, and ultimately blossoming into the person God has created me to be. You see, finding flowers is about more than just survival. It's about thriving. It's about embracing the trials that shape us, understanding that every challenge is a part of God's refining process, and recognizing the beauty that emerges from even the darkest seasons of our life. And that's why I created this platform. This is my testimony. This is my story. An offering to those who ever felt lost, broken, or buried under life's weight, just like I did. And even though life gets hard, it is a reminder that growth is possible, that God's hand is always at work, and that even in the midst of our struggles, we find our own flowers, our purpose, our healing, and our strength. And so, I hope that this podcast blesses you. I hope that it keeps you. And I hope that it is a perfect reminder that even through the struggle, we can persevere. What's good, my lovely people? What's up? Looks like it's been a minute, hasn't it? Listen, we're here now, season 2 of the Finding Flowers podcast. I'm your host, will always be your host, Erlette Flowers, and I'm so grateful, I'm so honored to embark on this journey with you through healing. I know it's been a minute. I get it. I've been getting so many DMs, text messages, phone calls, and people are like, girl, when you about to drop season 2? I'm like, listen, bear with me now. Bear with me. It is a very, very trying and pruning and transformative process, especially for somebody like me who's been private for so long. And what I mean by that is I'm just more of the behind the scenes type of person. You know what I mean? And I'm just so grateful to be able to steward something like this, something so special to me. I started this podcast not because this is something that I wanted to do, but this was something that I was instructed to do. And I'm just trying to lead with obedience in this season of the Finding Flowers podcast because I know that it will help someone. My motto is, even if it's just one person, that is where my posture is with God, because however he uses this platform, whatever he wants to do with it, through me, for me, to me, whatever the case is, Lord God, I thank you. And that's the posture that I'm in this season, for me to be obedient to what he has called me to do. And I'm just so grateful. I'm not going to lie. I'm just so grateful to embark on this journey with you through healing. You know, healing for me is something that I've been on for a very long time. I've been intentional about healing for the past 3 years. And it's been a lot of life experiences, life traumas, and life hardships that I've experienced in my life. But throughout this entire process, God has been faithful. And he's been very steadfast and a true help in the time of need for me. And I just want to share my testimonies. I want to share those stories with you and embark on those journeys, because God is revealing to me that this has nothing to do with me personally, but what he wants to do through me to reach the people or the person that he needs to reach. And I'm down for that. And so I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Thank you for sharing space with me and embarking also on this journey with me through healing. So Thank you for tuning in. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I ask that you please do so. Hit that bell notification so that way you can know when we do have more gatherings just like this. I would like for our community to grow and grow a community of healing humans, right? And walk through this spiritual journey of how God shows up for us and know that He's still planting seeds within us. So thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in with me and embarking on this journey through healing. Welcome to season 2 of Defining Flowers podcast. Let's heal. You know, season 2 is very dear to me. And I really have to say that it has been a very interesting journey. And mind you, I say interesting because it's not something that's been bad, but it has been something that's been very pruning and transformative for me throughout this journey. We dropped season 1 of the Finding Flowers podcast on audio. And in season 2, you get to actually officially meet me. So it's finally good to see you. It's finally good to meet you. My name is Erlette Flowers, and this journey, period, of the Finding Flowers podcast has been an amazing journey. And I'm just so happy and grateful for what God is doing, not only just through me, but also in me as well. This journey of just embarking on this journey through healing has been a very trying thing. And I'm just going to be completely honest and transparent with you. This is not something that it has been easy for me to just sit here in front of this camera to let you know exactly what it's been like for me and the journey through this entire process of healing has been a day-to-day thing for me. And I know that if I'm still dealing with it, because again, as we know, healing is a journey. It is not a destination. Healing for me is saying yes every single day. Not only every day for me to say yes to God, but yes that I accept. Because there are certain things and certain situations that may arise in our lives that trigger the very thing that we thought that we've healed from. I'm realizing that healing is almost like going to the gym, right? What do I mean by that? I mean that when you go to the gym, right, you're there to work out. And sometimes in order for you to build a certain muscle on your body, so if you're doing legs, if you're doing arms, if you're doing chest, you're not going to just go to the gym and you're working on your chest, but you actually running. It make sense, right? So in order for you to build your chest or for you to build your biceps, your triceps, and your abs, you have to specifically work on certain exercises and do certain techniques in order for you to ensure that you're building that muscle section, right? And that's the same thing with healing, whether that's emotional, spiritual, physical, mental, right? Every single part of how we exercise our healing is a process. And most of the time, we have to continue doing the same exercises in order for us to ensure that we are developing and strengthening that portion of healing, right? If we're trying to work on emotional healing or traumatic healing, we have to ensure that we work those things through, right? What does that even look like? Healing looks like practice, right? Healing looks like ensuring that the very thing that once triggered us no longer gets our response. What does that mean? That means that while we're in the process of healing our generational traumas, healing our relationship traumas, whatever healing that needs to be done in certain areas of our life, whether that's internal or external, is going to take us putting forth the time and the effort to ensure that we do that. And the reason why we want to do that is because that healing muscle we need to build. Because in life, there is going to be suffering. In life, there is going to be trials and tribulations. But how are we healing from the things that used to harm us, healing from the things that used to trigger us, right? And the only way that we can do that is to practice. The only way that we can do that is to get in our word, is to believe in the God who heals, right? Is to believe that God's word will never fail, to believe that God is a healer himself. And so in order for us to ensure that our healing parts of our bodies, emotional, spiritual, physical, internal or external, whichever one it is that we're actually putting forth the effort to do ourselves due diligence. The things that used to trigger us no longer triggers us. The thing that used to make us very angry or make us feel very bitter or make us feel sad or emotional no longer does that to us. We've come to the realization that having the emotional intelligence to give intelligent responses, that's what healing is about. Because if we are unhealed, it will show up in our conversations. It will show up the way that we treat ourselves. It will show up the way that we treat others. And it will also reflect the mental stability and the mental agreements that we actually have because of these experiences that we have not healed from. And so I believe that it is very imperative that we do choose a journey of healing, to get familiar with ourselves, to get to learn ourselves. Most of the time, the only time that we actually see ourselves is when we look in the mirror. That's it. And most of us don't really want to look in the mirror because we know the truth that hides inside of the person that we see reflecting in that mirror. When we come to the agreement that what we used to be, the things that we used to do, no longer serves us or is no longer who we are, we can look in the mirror and know exactly how to move. Not only that, when we know that this will never, ever happen again to me, or I would never respond like that again, or nobody would ever respond to me or talk to me in this kind of way or do what they did to me or whatever the case is, catch my breath. When we come to the realization of being able to look at ourselves in the mirror and love the person that we see, that's when we know that we have been healing from that very thing that used to harm us, from that very thing that used to hurt us. I want to give you guys a quick little intro of how I started this podcast, because I think I've mentioned it before on season 1, but we here now, so I can see you, you can see me. Well, I can't really see you, but you know what I mean. I launched the first episode of the Finding Flowers podcast, season 1, on March 28th, 2025 of this year. It was a very scary journey for me, very scary process. I don't know nothing about cameras and mics or interfaces or anything like that. I'm going to just put that out there right now. And I get it. You're like, but girl, you just uploaded this video on YouTube. How don't you know what you're doing? By the grace of God, let's just say the least. When I started this podcast, I got the instruction from God when I rededicated my life back to Christ on October 27th, 2024. In January 2024, January 2024, I want to say January 1st. And the reason why I say January 1st is because that's when I started my writing journey. I was instructed for me to write a different topic every single day about how I was feeling in that moment for 30 days. And I'm a writer already. I've been writing since I was 11 years old. So for me, this instruction of writing was like me being a kid in a candy store. I'm like, of course I'll write for 30 days. I don't see anything wrong with that. Every single day was a different topic. And every single day I would send this journal entry, because that's exactly how it started, to my sister. And my sister would read over my journal entries and she's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that. This is actually helping me. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to keep writing for her and I'll send it over. Whatever God placed on my heart, that's what I wrote about. And after that, 30 days had passed. God tells me, okay, now what you're going to do is take the next 30 days and revise it. And I want you to elaborate on what you wrote for the next 30 days. And I'm like, okay. But for me, again, I'm geeked out about this because I get to write. Writing is my first love. And I was just excited about it because I'm just like, you know what? We're going to expand on this. We're going to elaborate more. I'm going to be able to really dive into what I really want to talk about. Every single day was different. It was some about forgiveness, some about healing, love, some about no longer hiding. Like a lot of these topics that kind of really was on my heart from the beginning. It was a moment for me to create space and vulnerability for me to actually write down what I was feeling and what I was going through in that moment. It also helped my sister. And I'm just so grateful for that too, because just having someone or a community of people that can relate to you, that can create an environment that you feel safe in to have these types of conversations. It's a lot of us that lack that. We don't have a community of people that we can rest in because of a lot of factors, right? It can be that we just don't have anybody. We feel like sometimes we are misunderstood. Sometimes it's not a safe environment. Sometimes the people aren't safe. And sometimes, we have certain people who use what we grow through as a one-up on us. So that way they can have something to talk about and shame you with later on. It's like they're just taking it as tea, putting whatever it is that you're growing through in their back pocket and saving it for later. And so it can be many factors on why we don't feel safe in environments like that to let our bags down and rest our bodies or rest our minds and trust people to unpack these things. But I'm just so grateful that God has blessed me with a sister who I can rest with, And so taking those 30 days of revising what I wrote and still sharing it with her, I want to say about around my birthday, the beginning of March 2024, my sister tells me, girl, you need to write a book. And I'm like, okay, now you pushing it. I prayed about it and asked God to lead me in that because I wasn't sure if that's what he was calling me to do at all. Because I'm like, I know I write, but writing a book is a little, a little bit much. You taking it overboard now. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I don't think that's something that God is calling me to do. I fast and I prayed about it and I asked God, if this is something that you want me to do, lead me to do that and allow me to accomplish that if that's what you're calling me to do. And I want to say after I revised every single topic, that was 60 days now. The next 30 days, God told me, okay, now you're going to only choose a few chapters. And I want you to choose 11 topics. And I'm like, 11 topics? Out of the 30 topics that I talked about, now you pushing it. You're pushing it, God. What you want me to do? So sometimes I get like that. God would instruct me to do something. And I'm just like, you really want me to do that? I know that we've had these situations because I know I'm not the only one that have had that experience before where God would tell you to do something. You're like, wait, hold on now. You're taking me out of my comfort zone, But I don't think that when we're stretching and when God is trying to take us to a different level in our lives and elevate us spiritually, it should not be comfortable. If you're in a season where you feel very comfortable in and you're just like, I'm not doing that. I'm good right here. I'm content where I'm at. How are you growing? And no shade to you now. A good friend of mine told me that there was a quote by this man, and I can't really think about the man's name at the top of my head right now. The quote stated that if you're growing, it's not supposed to be comfortable. And if you're comfortable, you're not growing. I think that's what she said. And baby, when I tell you that hit me like a woo woo wah ha, listen, I'm like, it all makes sense. If we're postured in comfortability, we're not growing. If we are growing and it feels uncomfortable, baby, we on the right track. Okay? So now, when I did that, of course, like I mentioned to you, I was sharing with my sister and she was like, oh my gosh, you should write a book. And I'm like, I don't think that's what God calling me to do, honey. I don't know what you think this is, but this ain't that. During this same time, God goes, I want you to read this onto something. I want you to record this. And I'm like, why am I doing that? I remember the next day I felt so convicted for being disobedient. I said, God, I'm so sorry. God tells me I need you to buy a mic and I need you to buy an interface. And I'm like, God, what in the world is an interface? I can't even make this up because I didn't even know at the time what that was. And I'm talking like to the detail. So I tell my sister, I said, sis, I think God is calling me to buy equipment for Amari, who's my son. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'm thinking it's for somebody else, so I get it anyway. And God tells me, okay, buy the equipment, but it's not for my son. And I'm like, okay, God, what are you doing? So I bought the equipment. And when I bought the equipment, he tells me, okay, put it in the closet. Specifically, like I can hear him, like I get it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I got the stuff that God told me to get. Da, da, da. Baby, put it in the closet. Put that stuff in the closet. Put it in the closet. I said, you want me to buy the equipment, then you tell me to store it, like put it away? In the meantime of all of that, God is telling me to record what I wrote. During this entire time of me recording what I wrote, I am still writing. I am still sharing these topics with my sister. Every single time I would just share it with her. It's almost like every chapter that I was writing, I was going through at the same time. And it was the most interesting, raw, stripping, pruning transformation that I've ever been through in my entire life. When we go through certain experiences in our lives that transform us and take us to another level, it is very important for us to pay attention to how we are stewarding our gift, how we're moving in that particular season that we are in. Because sometimes we can get very distracted while in the process of breakthrough. But if we are distracted and if we are not obedient, we won't catch it. All right. Obviously, at this time, I already know that I'm writing a book. I've already surrendered to it. I said, okay, God, we gonna surrender. And one of the entries that I wrote was control. Oh, baby, when I tell you about surrender, okay, we gonna stop there. But when I tell you about that surrender is real, okay? Me surrendering to every instruction that God has called me to be led me to this situation. After I rededicated my life to Christ in October 2024, I just got baptized, okay? Well, that's a whole nother topic for a different day, but we gonna get into it. But when I rededicated my life to God on October 27th, 2024, that is when everything hit the fan. What do I mean by that? God told me to bring out the equipment and for me to start recording. And I said, hold on now, you're moving too fast. Then he tells me, I get it. You a private person. Your social medias are private, but it's not going to be. You said yes to me. And so if you said yes to me, then I need you fully. I don't need half of you. I don't need a piece of you. I don't need you sometimes. I need you full time. I need full access. And baby, when you give God your yes, it can be the most terrifying thing ever because you don't even know what you're signing up for. I'm not here to scare you, but what I am here to do is to encourage you. You see this book? Now don't judge me now because she been beat up a little bit. But you see this book? Baby, that's your protection. That's your sword. That's what it is right there. Do not fear. Do not be anxious for nothing. But in all things through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. All right. When I gave God my yes to do this podcast, that's when I became the target to the enemy. And I didn't know it in the beginning until I didn't realize it until I began to pay attention to the characteristics of how the enemy strikes. But it also allowed me to spend more time and come in close proximity with God and to learn his divine timing and his process and his characteristics. Because at the end of the day, God prevails. And that's all we need to know. Stay locked in and he will guide you and he will set you free. After me dedicating my life back to Christ, it's almost like, and I know that this may sound crazy, it's almost like earwax came out my ears, how clear I heard them. I'm just being honest. Every single day was an encounter. Every single day was instruction. I'm not telling you that my obedience was perfect because it wasn't. In the beginning of doing this podcast, I fought with God so much. And I'm not going to front you because I'm like, God, you know this ain't me. You know I can't do this. You know I don't have the tools. I don't even know how to do this. You see how many podcasts are out there already? Why would you want to use me to do another podcast? Another podcast of somebody just yapping, yapping, yapping? When I said that, God just got quiet with me. And I did not hear from him for quite some time. Let me just say that. The thing is that when we are disobedient, when God has instructed us to do something that he needs to get his glory out of you, listen, he will sit there and wait until you posture yourself and align yourself with what he has called you to do. And baby, when I tell you I had to get suited and booted and ready, that's exactly what I had to do. And as soon as I started to align myself with what his will was for my life, even though I was uncomfortable, even though I was scared, even though every single time that I press record on this camera, it makes me feel so scared. I shake in my boots and I don't care who judge me. Because at the end of the day, I know how I used to be. And I'm just becoming comfortable with who God has called me to be. The second reason why I started this podcast, first, it was my obedience with God. The second one was because I know that there's somebody else growing through some of the same things that I went through. Even though sometimes in certain seasons of the things that I was experiencing, I didn't have anybody for me to relate to at the time. I went through it still, but I wasn't alone. I went through it with God. And in that process of pruning and transformation and hurt and pain and sorrow and all the suffering, throughout the process of me growing in those seasons, even though times when I wanted for all of it to just stop, God was still planting seeds within me and granting me the tools that was necessary for me to get to another spiritual level and also personal level with him. Because who I used to be will no longer serve me in the posture that he needs me to be. And so with this podcast, I chose healing because I didn't grow up in an environment that even knew what healing was. This is first gen type of healing. And what that means is that nobody in my family or my extended family, or no aunties, cousins, uncles, grandparents, nobody embarked on this type of journey. I couldn't even put language to any of this. The only thing that I knew was for me to be obedient to what God has called me to do. And sometimes we never know that what we're going through is actually something that we need to go through, because somebody else needs to get the courage to see that they can also grow through it as well. And this is the purpose of this podcast. I never really had anybody that I can say, hey, what is healing and how do I do that? And so with this platform, this is where we start. This is where we begin our healing journey. And I know that there's other podcasts out there that talks about healing that we can be able to put language to. But for me, this is what God had postured me in, and this is what he instructed me to do. I'm just being obedient, and I want to take you on a journey with me through healing. So let's lock in and let's heal together. Thank you so much for tuning in with me at the Finding Flowers podcast. I truly, truly appreciate it. I know that time is very costly and is something that we can never get back. But I want to thank you so much for locking in with me. If you feel as though this episode can help somebody else, please do not hesitate to share this video, give it a like. And also, if you are just browsing, if you're just tuning in with us for the very first time, I ask that you please hit that subscribe button and also that bell notification, so that way you can know when we have more gatherings just like this one. Thank you so much for locking in with me. Please take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. But don't forget to be kind to others. God bless you. Take care. Peace.